Why did the early church fathers not expose Paul as an imposter?
They did, actually. They saw him to be an apostate. They saw him to be an imposter. They saw him to be an enemy of Christ, Antichrist. Some called him Antichrist. The only problem is they never made it to the list of the church fathers. Who are the church fathers? The church fathers are the people given that title by the Catholics primarily. And amazingly, interestingly enough, most of these church fathers are heretics because their beliefs are not the same as later Catholic beliefs. Even the doctrine of the Trinity. Most of these church fathers in the 2nd and 3rd and 4th century, they were subordinationists. They believed in a hierarchical Trinity. They believed the Father is the highest, then the Son is somewhere below the Father, and the Spirit is below the Son. This is Tertullian, by the way, a well-known church father. And this is why the Catholic Church never canonized him. They never gave him the title of saint. Now, those people who considered Paul to be an outright apostate, they never made it to the list of being church fathers. They could be highly learned men. And they are mentioned actually by the church fathers in their writings that these people consider Paul to be apostates, therefore they themselves are apostates. We don't even think any of them deserve the honor to be called scholars or church fathers or church authorities for that matter.
Yeah, and information about the Jewish Christians can actually be found in the writings of Eusebius, who is the father of church history, Clement of Alexandria, and also in the New Testament, especially the book of Acts and the writings of Paul. It's very clear from the writings of Paul that they were Christians who were opposing his message. In 1 Corinthians chapter 1, he says, there are divisions among the church. Some of you say they follow Paul. Some of you say they follow Apollo. Some of you say they follow Cephas, that's Peter. And some of you say, you know what, they follow Christ. So this shows division from early on. And we know who these people are because in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, he says about, I do not think that I am more inferior to these super apostles. So he's being sarcastic. These super apostles, who are they? He went on to say, are they Hebrews? I am also a Hebrew. Are they descendant of Abraham? I'm also descendant of Abraham. Are they apostles of Christ? He said, I'm also an apostle of Christ. In fact, I have worked harder than they. In First Galatians, he told us specifically that the message, the gospel that he's preaching is not from any man, that his gospel is for a revelation that he got from Jesus Christ. So it's not that was, this is not something that he got from the disciples who were with Jesus Christ, who lived with him, who witnessed everything that he did. No, he's saying that this thing he's preaching, he got it from the Lord Jesus Christ through a revelation. And he went on to say that if anyone preaches any other gospel other than this, let him be accursed. Galatians chapter 2 again, he says the same thing about how Cephas, James, and John, those who seem to be pillars of the church, how they extended a hand of fellowship to him. But they had an agreement that they are going to continue preaching to the circumcision, to the circumcised, that's the Jews, while he preaches to the uncircumcised, the Gentiles. Now think about it. That means the disciples of Jesus Christ, the one who witnessed him historically, continued preaching only to Jews. However, only Paul, according to him, was preaching only to the Gentiles. Think about it. Would it make sense that the disciples of Jesus Christ, if the message of Jesus Christ is actually meant for all of mankind, including Gentiles, why would they not partake in preaching to the Gentiles? Why would all of them, highlighted by James, Peter, and John, who are the pillars of the church, why will they only concentrate on preaching to the circumcised, to the Jews? And then the worst of all, in verse 11 of chapter 2, Galatians chapter 2, he said, and when Peter came to Antioch, I withstood him face to face. This was Peter, whom Jesus Christ said, upon him I will build my church. He said he withstood Peter face to face because he was to be blamed. Paul is saying he had a disagreement with Peter, and he's saying that he is actually right and Peter is wrong, and we are supposed to believe it. Lastly, in the book of Acts, we are told that in Acts chapter 21 that the disciples actually invited him to Jerusalem to tell him that rumors have come to their ears that he is preaching to Jews who are abroad that they should forsake the law of Moses, which shows that the disciples of Jesus Christ continued following the law of Moses to the extent that they even tested him. Okay, the brothers who are so determined about the law of Moses, we are going to hear that you've come. What are we going to do? So take these 4 men and take them to the temple and offer the Nazarite vow with them. Pay money for their Nazarite vow. And we know what is the Nazarite vow in the book of Numbers chapter 6. It's part of the Mosaic law. So the disciples continue going to the temple, continue sacrificing, and we also told that they continue praying at fixed time, the 3rd hour of the day, the 6th hour of the day, and the 9th hour of the day. Is all in the book of Acts. So, and this was not what Paul preached. So when people say that Islam is opposed or radically different from Christianity, the religion of Christ, what they're actually saying is that Islam is different from the religion of Paul. Because what you have in the New Testament is not the religion of Jesus Christ. It is the religion of Paul. And that's the reason why we have scholars, Christian scholars who are even admitting. Jeffrey Boss, who is a professor of world religions, he's a Lutheran pastor. He said that Islam seems to be a resurrection of the earliest form of Christian orthodoxy, the Jewish Christians, those who remained in and around Jerusalem and continue preaching that Jesus Christ is the Messiah, continue going to the temple, continue following the law of Moses, the dietary laws, circumcision, and so on and so forth. So again, this is evidence for you. Come to Islam, come to salvation.